Okay, Sukkah, base vav. Reb Eliezer says it is incumbent upon everyone to eat 14 meals in the sukkah, one by day and one by night. But the comments say there is no fixed number except for the first night of the festival. And Reb Eliezer further stated, whoever failed to eat a meal on the first night compensates for it on the last night. But the comments say there is no compensation for it. Of this it is said that which is crooked cannot be made straight, and that which is wanting cannot be numbered. Um, One who had his head and the greater part of his body inside the sukkah and his table inside the house. Beis Shammai ruled this invalid, but Beis Hillel declared it valid. Beis Hillel said to Shammai, "Did it not happen so that the elders of Shammai and Beit Hillel went to visit Rabbi Yochanan ben Chanori and found him sitting with his head and greater part of the body in the sukkah, while his table was inside the house, and they said nothing to him? Beis Shammai said to him, prove from there." They actually said to him, "If you have conducted yourself thus, you have never in your life fulfilled the mitzvah of sukkah." Women slaves and minors are exempt from the sukkah. A minor who is not dependent on his mother is obligated in respect to sukkah. And it happened that Shammai's daughter-in-law gave birth, and he removed the ceiling plaster and covered above the bed with sukkah for the sake of the male child.
That's
Isn't there
tough.
a thing? I can't remember. It says here that you can't make up the compensate on the last night of sukkah. You can't make up for it. But there's something somewhere I can remember that you can make it up if you miss. I forget what it is. I can't remember. That's something I thought it's something you can miss. I don't know if it's a meal or um, a locker or something like that.
You're
I
not
haven't
thinking
mixed.
of this Mishnah of Rabbi Eliezer who's saying that you can make up for the meal that you missed. I mean, in any case, Chachamim say that there's no such thing as making it up, and
Right.
there's no obligation to eat all these meals in the sukkah either. You just have to eat the first one. Um, is there tashlumin? I mean, there's tashlumin for tefillah. If you missed a tefillah, um, then you can make it up afterwards. But I'm not sure what you're thinking of.
I can't remember what it is. I
Okay.
don't.
All right, well,
Okay.
let's move onwards. Mishnah Tes,
Okay.
Kol Shivas Hayamim Adam Ose Sukkah So Keva Ubeisa Arai. So that is the mitzvah of Sukkah, of the whole of Sukkahs, is that your Sukkah becomes your fixed
The
abode,
house.
and the house is where you go in occasionally when you need to cook stuff, need to go to the bathroom, whatever else. But the rest of the time you should be spending as much as possible in your Sukkah. Yardu Kashamim, what happens if it rains? Ma'emasai mutar lefanos. Okay, so how bad does the rain have to be before you're allowed to say, okay, we're moving the meal inside? Mishet tisra chamikpa. Okay, when the rain is dropping into your food and is spoiling the food, basically. The mikveh is a porridge, but that's just an example of if the rain is falling into the porridge and ruining the porridge. So that would be any food. So if it's making a puddle on your plate while you're eating chicken and it's just like
Yeah.
not nice.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
Mashlu mashal. They said this is, but they said they gave an example of what this is like. Lama davar domeh le'eved sheba limzog kos l'rabo, like a servant who came to pour a glass for his master. V'shafach lo kiton al panav, and his master took the water jug and threw it back in his face.
Right.
So it's considered a siman ra if it rains during Sukkot. So it's kilu Hashem doesn't want our.
Right.
Perek Shlishi. Lulav hagazel. Okay. Vahayavesh pasul. So what are the minimum dimensions of a lulav? Well, first of all, what are the requirements for a lulav? It first of all must belong to the owner. It cannot be a stolen lulav, and you cannot fulfill the mitzvah with something that does not belong to you. Also, if it's dried out, it's got to be a fresh lulav that's still got some moisture in it. Otherwise, it's pasul. Kol shel ashera v'shel irani dachas pasul. Also, if the lulav was cut from an ashera tree, a tree that worshipped as an avodah zarah, or if it was from a city that has to be destroyed. So both of them, the lumdus of this is that both of them have a din of sreifa. They both have to be burned. One because it's one because it's avodah zarah, other because it's from an irani dachas, and they both have to be destroyed. And they're
Right.
considered as if they've already been burned, and therefore they don't have the minimum shear. Okay.
The lulav has to be. Is the same for an esrog also? The
We're
same.
gonna, we, we'll get to the halachas for an esrog later, but right now we're focusing on lulav.
Okay.
Okay. Oh gosh. Sorry. Um, Niktam Rosha. What happens if its top is cut off?
Mhm.
Nifratzu alav, or its leaves have been peeled off. Um, then it's also pasul. It lacks the quality of hidur, and now everything from the Arba minim has to be Mahudar. And if its top has been cut off, it's no longer growing. It's no longer got that element of hidor. And the same thing if the leaves are split. Nifridu alav, if the leaves are separated, that's still okay. Now let's just see in the commentary, Nifridu alav, right? If that's still okay. It's ideal if they're mostly closed. Um, but even if they're open, if the last one is open up to a tefach, it's still kosher. Now we always make a big show of like taking a look at that top leaf and making sure that it's not, first of all, that it's not a hemnic split, that it doesn't have that sort of break pointing in other directions, but also that it's closed, that the leaf is closed and hasn't split.
Did you get that? Did you get that?
Yeah. Um, Rabbi Yehuda Omer Yogdenu milamala. So Rabbi Yehuda says, well, you can just take if the leaves have separated, he has to tie them up together with the spine of the lulav
No.
to close them. Tine har barzel ksheros, the ones from the um Tine, the
All
lulavim
right.
that grow on this mountain called Har Barzel, and the mountain of iron, which is um, so according to some, it's close to Arnon, and to other places in the Gemara it says it's from a guy Ben Hinnom. It's basically in Yerushalayim. But basically the tachlis is that these are palm trees that are very hard and grow in the mountains. So and the leaves are short. So they don't grow along the whole length of the spine. Nonetheless, they are kosher, even though they don't look like the normal date palms from that you'd find in a place like the Jordan Valley. Lulav sheyesh bo shloshet tfachim kedei lenanea bo kasher. And finally, we get to the minimum shear of a lulav. It has to be 3 tfachim long at least, in order that you can hold it and shake it. Okay, hadas hagazul v'yavesh pasul. Same din goes for the myrtles. Okay, that's if it's stolen, it's no good. If it's dry, it's no good. Shall asher shall ir nidachas pasul. Same thing goes for if it was worshipped or if it's from an ir nidachas, it lacks the minimum shear. Niktam rosha, if the top is cut off. Nifritzu alav or shehayu anavav. Okay, if the leaves had been taken off, if the leaves have fallen off of most of the branch, or shehayu anavav merubos me alav, or it's hanavim. It has little berries, right?
No.
So if there's how shall I does
The more
so
berries than
there are
leaves.
more berries than leaves, yeah. So if there are more berries than leaves, that is also possible. The miatan kasher, but there is a remedy for that. You just break off the berries, and then you're left with leaves, and then you're good. Ve'ein mama'atin b'yom tov. However, that's something that you can't do on Yom Tov. So
Right.
if you're breaking off, if you've got some hadassim that have got berries on them, you have to break off the berries before Yom Tov. Okay, Yoma,
Yeah, let's get to the right place here.
Yoma chesed.
Did we have one more to do?
No, that's it.
Okay. I was confused. Okay, as usual. Normal. Okay. There we go. Okay, we have Hey Vav. If one was seized with bulmus, they feed him even forbidden foods until the vision is restored. If one was bitten by a mad dog, they may not feed him its liver lobe. But Masa ben Karas permits it. And Masa ben Karas also said if one has an ailment in his throat, that they may drop medicine into his mouth on Shabbos, because there may be a danger to life, and every possible danger to life supersedes Shabbos. If a building collapses on someone on the Sabbath and it is uncertain whether he is there or not, or it is uncertain whether he is alive or dead, or uncertain whether he is a heathen or a Jew, they must clear the heap of debris for him. And if they found him alive, they must clear the rest of the debris for him. But if he's dead, they leave him there.
Okay, just
Okay.
hold on a second. You skipped Mishnah Hay, so just come back and do Mishnah Hay at the beginning, and
Right.
and,
Right.
and this is where
Okay. If a pregnant woman smells food or drink and requested it, they feed her until she recovers. A sick person, they feed him according to the advice of experts, but there are no experts are present. They feed him relying on his own opinion until he says enough.
Okay, that's it. And tomorrow we're back to Ches.
Right.
Okay, Shkalim, Daled Gimel.
Okay. Um, Dalad Dalad. What did they do with the remainder of the truma? They made gold sheets to plate the Holy of Holies. The Mishna said the profit of the fruits is used to purchase animals which are offered upon the altar when it is idle, and the remainder of the truma is used for the utensils needed for the temple service. Rabbi Kiva says the remainder of the truma is used to purchase animals which are offered upon the altar when it is idle, and the remainder of the nasachim is used for the utensils needed for the temple service. Kananya Sagan of the Kohanim says the remainder of the Sukkah is used to purchase animals which are offered on the altar when it is idle, and the remainder of the Truma is used for the utensils needed for the temple service. Neither one nor the other admitted concerning the permissibility of profiting from fruits. What did they do with the remainder of the incense? They would set aside for the truma an amount equal to the artisan's wage, and they would redeem the incense with the artisan's wages. Then they would give the incense to the artisans as their wages and purchase with them the funds from the new truma. As the new Shkolim came in time, they purchased the incense with funds from the new truma, but not from the old. Okay, one more, right? No,
No, that's it. That's it.
that's it.
We're above tomorrow. Yeah.
Shabbos. One who writes, this is I forget it. One who writes two letters, whether his right hand or with the left, whether one character or two characters, whether with two inks, in any language, he's liable. Rabbi Yossi says they declared writing two letters only liable only because of marking. But thus would they mark on the boards of the Mishkan to know which one was mates. Rabbi Huda Hanassi says we find a short name which is long part of a long name. Hashem from Shimon, Shmuel from Noach, and Shmuel and Noach from Nachor, Dan from Daniel, and God from Gadel. One who writes two letters in one period of forgetfulness is liable whether he wrote with ink, with ornament, or vermilion, with gum, or with sulfate, and with anything that marks on two walls forming a corner, or on two pages of a ledger that can be read together, he is liable. And one who writes on his skin is liable. One who scratches on his skin, Rabbi Eliezer holds him liable for a sin offering, but Rabbi Yeshua exempts him. Okay. If one wrote with liquids, with fruit juices and road dust, inscribes dust, or with anything that does not endure, he's exempt. If one wrote with the back of his hand, with his foot, with his mouth, or with his elbow, if one wrote one letter alongside a written letter, if one wrote over another writing, if one intended to write a chet, but wrote two tets, if one wrote one letter on the ground and one letter on a beam, or if one wrote on two walls of the house or on two pages of a ledger that cannot be read together, he is exempt. If one wrote the letter as an abbreviation, the Yehuda and Sarah holds him liable, but the sages exempt him. Okay.
Okay.
How do you write with your elbow? I'm trying to figure that out. How do you do that?
I guess. I mean, I guess you could. You grip the pen between your elbows like this, and
Two elbows. I do it with one elbow. Okay. Brachos. A Balkori reads mentally and does not recite the blessings before or after it. On food, he recites the after blessings, but does not recite before. The Yehuda says he blesses before and after them. Okay. Well, and we have someone was withstanding engaged in the field and remembered that it was a Bakari. He does not on that account stop altogether. Instead, he shortens it. If he descends to immerse himself and is able to come up and cover himself and to read before the sun rises, he shall come up, dress, and read. And if not, he shall cover himself with the water and read. But he may not cover himself in evil-smelling water or water of soaking until he pours in water. How far away should one remove himself from it and from excrement? 4 amas. A Zaba became about carrying a menstruum who discharged semen, and a woman who engaged in relations that noticed herself menstruating requires immersion. Yehuda exempts. Okay. Learning a lot, paying attention. I hope so.
Okay. All right.
Base solid. A Kohen arranged a large fire toward the east, and the fire's face was toward the east, and the heads of the inner logs would touch the mound. And there was space between the logs where they would kindle the chips from there. They selected from their fine wood of a fig tree to arrange the second pyre for the incense opposite the southwest corner, joined from 4 amos northward. From the corner, an estimated 5 sods of coal, and on Sabbath, an estimated 8 sods of coal, where they were placed the 2 spoonfuls of frankincense on the showbread. The limbs and the fats were not consumed during the night. The Kohanim returned to the pyre, and they kindled 2 pyres with the fire, and the Kohanim descended and came to the chamber of the hewn stone. The appointed one said to them, "Come and cast lots. One who slaughters the Talmud offering, who throws the blood, who clears the ash from the inner altar, who clears the ash from the menorah, who brings the limbs of the Talmud up to the ramp of the altar, the head and right hind leg, the two forelegs of the fat of the tail, and the fat hind and the left hind leg, the fat of the chest and the neck, the two flanks, the intestines, and the fine flour, the kavitim, and the wine. They cast lots, and the one who won won." Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Gimel Zion. Why, if one deposits produce with another person, he may deduct for decreases for wheat and for rice, 9.5 cobs per core for barley and for millet, 9 cobs per core for spelt and for linseed, 3 per core, everything according to the measure, everything according to the time. Said Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori, what difference does it make to the mice? They do not eat whether from much or from little. Rather, he deducts or decreases for 1 core only. Rabbi Yehuda says that if he had been a large measure, he does not deduct for decreases because it increases. He may deduct a sixth for wine. Rabbi Yehuda says a fifth. He may deduct 3 lugim of oil per 100, a log and a half for sediment, and a log and a half for absorption. If it was refined oil, he may not deduct for sediment. If the vessels were old, he may not deduct for absorption. Rabbi Yehuda says also if one sells refined oil to another all the days of the year, the latter must accept upon himself a log and a half sediment per 100. If one deposits this cask with its another, and its owner had not designated a place for it, and had moved it, and it broke from his hand, and then he had moved it, and then he moved it for his hand benefit, he is liable. For its benefits, is exempt. If it broke after he put it down, whether he had moved it for his benefit or for his benefit, he is exempt. If the owner has designated a place for it and he moved it and it broke, whether from his hand or whether after he put it down, if he had moved it for his benefit, he is liable. For its benefit, he is exempt. Okay.
Okay. Now we're good. That's it.
Thank you. Good. Okay.
All
So
right.
tomorrow you're gone. Yeah.
Uh, no, tomorrow I'm here. It's Wednesday. I think that I've got the morning appointment. Let me confirm that, but I think it was Wednesday. Uh,
All right. You're right.
yeah, it's Wednesday. This is
You were very good today. All right.
yeah,
So proud of you.
it's Wednesday that I'm not here. Okay.
Very proud of you.
See you
Very
then.
good. Okay. Have
Have
a
a
good
good day.
day. Bye.
Bye.